Greetings, gaming historians, and welcome to Lord of Lore, where we break down the lore and history of our favorite video games and fantasies. Today, we're going back into the world of Amalur to discuss the most ancient and mysterious beings in Amalur, and that is the FAE. Many players of Reckoning, newcomer and veteran alike, have difficulty understanding these beings and their strange ways. While many of the FAE appear humanoid, build civilizations, and speak the mortal tongues well enough, their constant talk of the Great Cycle, ballads, and other mystical aspects of the FAE lands make them far more exotic than any other people in Amalur. So what are the FAE? What are they like? And what is their role in the land around them? Now fair warning, there are some spoilers ahead. Let's discuss. To begin our video, we're going to take a closer look at the FAE's culture and society, learning what we can and trying to rid ourselves of some common misconceptions. Many new players find the FAE difficult to understand, partly because of their unique culture, vague rituals, and dialogue that seems to sometimes contradict itself. At first glance, the FAE seem to be mostly humanoid immortals that have a deep understanding of magic and find the mortal races strange. While this is true, another confusing aspect of their lives is the Great Cycle and their roles within it. According to the FAE and the scholars that have studied them, the FAE are immortal not in body, but in spirit. When the FAE dies, their magical essence is taken to the realm of Esharra, and they will soon be reborn into the physical world through FAE hollows. This is because, unlike mortals, FAE are actually beings of pure magic given physical form. When they are reborn, they will play the same role they have played in previous lives, all aspects of their life dictated by the Great Cycle. While they are intelligent enough to understand mortal practices, they are often scornful of and confused by mortal society, and they are uncomfortable with change and ambition. Today, these two courts are known as the Seelie FAE of the Summer Court and the Unseelie FAE of the Winter Court. The Summer FAE live in the West FAE lands such as Dalentarth and Datir, and they embody the aspects of life and growth. The Winter FAE live in the East FAE lands such as Cluracan and Alabastra, and they embody the aspects of death and decay. Each court also has, or rather had, three great houses that embodied certain aspects of their court. The Winter Court had the House of Sorrows, House of Pride, and the House of Vengeance. The House of Sorrows was one of the first houses, as when the first Winter FAE broke off from their cousins, constant infighting prevented them from uniting. A FAE known as the Weeping King used his magic to channel all the passions and sadness from his people and release them in a great weeping river that connected itself and his people to the magical realm of Esharra, and the House of Sorrows was later created to honor the king's tradition. Meanwhile, the House of Pride embodies the Winter FAE's stoic ideals, while the House of Vengeance bred mighty warriors. The houses of the Summer FAE, however, embody life and growth. The House of Ballads recruits heroes to relive the greatest FAE songs. The House of Valor trains warriors to embody the struggle of survival, and the House of Seasons ensured the growth of living things. However, many of the houses were broken or completely wiped away following the Crystal War. The House of Valor was overtaken by a mortal warrior known as Hroth Magnus. The members of the House of Seasons mysteriously disappeared, and the House of Sorrows would soon fall to the treachery of the Tuatha agent Saturnin. As the Fateless One explores the world of Amalur to defeat the Tuatha Daon, they soon discover that Gadflo's war and the breaking of fate has had disastrous effects upon the FAE, with many of their people shrinking back as the mortal races grow or are being slain by the growing forces of the Tuatha. As High King Tatarian of Summer states, the time of the FAE is coming to an end. All of this history is either vague or lost to time, and even with this information, it can be difficult for players to understand the FAE and their ways. Many fans I have seen have had several questions about their culture, mindset, and rebirth, and the game's purposefully vague answers have left many confused. If the House of Ballads relived the tales of heroes who have moved on to other things, then how can the FAE truly be reborn to play the same role? When the FAE are reborn, do they retain the memories of past lives? Before answering these questions, I would like to point out that one of the most important things to understand is to remember their real-world mythological counterparts. In Celtic mythology, the FAE were not always these eternally wise beings, but were instead mischievous beings governed more by their natural tendencies rather than logic or social norms. This is what we need to remember. The FAE are not people, but rather physical embodiments of nature itself. While the FAE courts are wise and structured, beasts like boggarts, trolls, and barghests are also FAE, and though some of these creatures show some limited intelligence, they act more upon their nature than any civilization. This mindset also helps us understand the FAE courts. Now then, are the FAE born to play the exact same role each time they are reborn? Based on what the game gives us, yes and no. Based on events seen in the House of Ballads and House of Sorrows questline, it would be safe to infer that the FAE are reborn to play the same type of role rather than the exact same role itself. To support this theory, take a look at the situation in the House of Ballads. Long ago, FAE heroes made the adventures sung in the ballads, but then they moved on to other things, and now other warriors compete in order to reenact the tales of these heroes. Our furthest evidence, however, comes from Tybri in the House of Sorrows. Long ago, the Weeping King wept a great river for the Winter FAE, and this was obviously something that was not repeated. However, we soon learn that Tybri is a reincarnation of the Weeping King, and while she does not do the exact same action of weeping a river, she is the only member of the house who tends to the sorrow magic that was created by the Weeping King. Because of this, I believe that the FAE play the same type of role in their lives, the same type. A healer would be a healer, a tender would be a tender, and a warrior would be a warrior. Their individual roles may alter in different places, but they still follow the same function as past lives. This also brings us to the question of whether or not they still retain their memories from life to life. Once again, the answer is yes and no. While it takes some characters like Tybri time to learn who they once were, many FAE seem to know exactly who they are and what they did in past lives, but if you question them further, they will often become vague or say that it is simply what the Great Cycle tells them. Because of this, I believe that although they do not have the individual memories of each life, they simply follow the guidance of the Great Cycle, and thus they always know what they were supposed to do and what they are supposed to continue doing. Think of it like this. They may not remember reading the book, but they still know exactly what it contains and how it will play out. Interestingly, some dialogue indicates that when FAE are reborn, they alternate between the courts of summer and winter. Whether or not these counterparts play a similar role in both sides, or that if each part has its own role, is unknown. However, these questions and answers only touch upon FAE culture and society. What of their history? Where did they come from, and how did their actions shape the very seasons and lands around them into what they are today? Tune in next time for part 2, where we will discuss the greatest conflict in all of Amalur, the Withering War. Leave your thoughts in the comment section below, and remember to drop a like and subscribe so my channel can grow. Feel free to comment what you would like to see next. New videos every week. God bless.